Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. This is NFA Live, theoretically every Thursday, but we've missed a couple of weeks. But we are coming to you at least on July 4th. And it is great to have both of you guys here. Jessica from Coin Bureau, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Happy 4th of July. I'm not based in the US, so I almost forgot it was an event, but happy 4th of July, guys.
Yeah, and then Rob from Digital Asset News, how are you doing?
Good. Just enjoying this 4th of July, like Jess said. It's a great day to do nothing except for show up for NFA Live.
I looked at like the futures market, and I was like, oh yeah, the markets aren't open today.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been a while since we've done this. So guys, if you're watching and you're new and you're not subscribed to either Rob or Jessica, links to their channels are in the description below. So make sure you guys do that because we rotate where we do this show every week. This week it's my channel, next week it'll be Rob's, and then the following week it'll be over on Coin Bureau Clips, either with Jessica or Guy, depending on who's available that week. So let's go ahead and jump in. We have a lot of questions. The first question I really want to know, and Rob, I'm gonna start with you on this one. Where in the cycle are we?
Well, I would just say that we were doing pretty good until you broke down your desk and then everything collapsed. So now we were at. I'm pretty sure when you broke down your cardboard desk for 3 years, which was pretty amazing. You did that. That we were above 60K, and then we went down to, I want to say 57.1, maybe 56.9, somewhere around there. I can't be for sure. But as far as like where we are in the cycle, it's let me just share this. I think it's easy to break it down. So I'm going to use this website that I like to steal from all the time. It's called Into the Cryptoverse, and there's a link in the description. Of course, that's for Ben's site. But what we're looking at is where we're at in the cycle, and I always kind of break it down. First, I take a look at the returns. And I'm still a believer in the 4-year cycles. So, we have halving, then all-time high, then a dip and a reset. And if we look back, if we just look at, for the last 3 cycles, where we're at is essentially where we're supposed to be. And if we look at it like the last halving in 2020, we can see that we had some pretty green months. Now, I don't think we'll see if July and August hold up, but usually in these halving years, and on the back end of the year, historically, we see a lot of green months with some outliers and some pullbacks, which I pretty much believe are normal. I know, Ben, I think I've watched a couple of your videos lately, and I know you've been comparing a lot of this to 2019 to see where we're at, and things are kind of lining up in that way. It's just an odd time. And I think the odd time comes down to part of the ETFs and what was happening. But I was thinking about it, the question, I thought maybe I'm just looking at it in a wrong way of the trajectory. Maybe I am too stuck on my having all-time high dip reset 4-year cycles. Maybe if I take a look at it from the lows to the highs, I can get a better image of where we're at. So if we take a look at 2014 to 2017, you can see how, of course, 2013 was an all-time high. And then we had a dip and a reset, 2014, 15, and 16 was the halving. But then, of course, it always rebounds so far. And we've had a pretty good lineup. Now, if I take a look at that, and some people say, well, that doesn't look accurate. Well, if I take a look at that same time frame in linear, it's true. It doesn't match up, but you have to take a look at a logarithmic, and it's the same thing. But when I was taking a look, if we go back into 2016, because if we're going to line up the halving years, 2016, 2020, then 2024, if I look back into 2016, because I still feel like we kind of got screwed out of a proper bull run because of the shenanigans with the FTX, the BlockFi, the Celsius, and the Voyager in 2021, and the things that were going on. So if I go back to one of the purer eras, look at 2016 for the halving year. And we were up in June going into July. We were up massively, just like how we were before. I mean, we were kind of chopping sideways a little bit, but I mean, you went from June 18th to 764, and then in July, I mean, we went down to 654, 623 towards the end of July, and then all the way down to 517. So we'll go from just in a month and a half, 764, all the way down to 517. That's quite a bit. And these pullbacks are normal. I think like as we move forward, we're going to see more of these pullbacks because there's been so much of a massive gain. The one thing that concerned me, and a couple of things that concern me, and we can't see it because, like Ben said, the markets are closed. S&P 500 hit all-time highs on July 3rd. NASDAQ hit all-time highs on July 3rd. But if we even go back, it seems like we just keep putting in all-time highs regardless of what's going on. And I think not if, but when we actually crash, because we can't keep doing this forever. I mean, we had a nice little run up after the Great Recession and just, hockey stick to the right, except for, of course, the cerveza sickness or coronavirus. But if you look at it, I mean, time has gone on and we're still doing pretty good with the ETFs. But I just take a look at all this and I just feel like we're in the same position, but more so like 2016 instead of like 2020. So to see like where we're at, I still think that we're gonna have these massive pullbacks and it's not a big deal. It just depends on where people want to be and what they want to do with it. Is this the massive awful thing? Or is this the time when they're like, hey, all that talk about me getting into it, maybe this is the time. So I just feel like we're kind of where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, on the ROI from halving chart, it's more similar to 2016 than it is to 2012 and 2020. In 2012 and 2020, Bitcoin never went below the price that it was at the halving, like after that day. But in 2016, following the halving, we actually had a pretty big drop. So I think maybe a lot of it is just sort of like what happened last time. No, you have to go see what happened two cycles ago.
We'll see what plans out.
Yeah. Jessica, how about you? Where do you think we are in the cycle? Are you in agreement with Rob, or do you have a different opinion on where we are?
Yeah, I am in agreement with Rob. I think it feels like we are pretty much on track. I know we've spoke about this a few times on the show, and we have said that there is expected to be a little bit of a retracement or market lull in the summer months. That's something that everyone was anticipating. You've got the post-Bitcoin halving hype from April that then is expecting like a 12 to 18 months time frame. We've seen ETF volume range bound since March. We've seen less interest in the space when it comes to the ETF interest. James Seyfarth was on Unchained podcast yesterday and was saying that, there is this kind of summer period we're seeing, as Ben, you mentioned on your channel a few days ago, Fear and Greed Index is around the time of September 2023. So we're kind of in this period of just kind of waiting and seeing. So to anyone that's wondering where we are in the market cycle, I would say this is a really good time if you are watching and you're interested in crypto and you are on the sidelines to see what happens next. This could be the last dip before we do have a recovery. We've got the kind of anticipation of possibly Mt. Gox BTC being sent to exchanges. That could trigger another little bit of a market correction or dip in prices. Aside from that, though, we have had a fairly optimistic year. And if we do scale out to compare it to last year, for example, Bitcoin's price is still up 36% year to date. So we still are set for a pretty significant ramp up. We're expecting kind of Q3 and Q4 things to start moving again to a positive trajectory on the upside. But as we've also said, market cycles in summer are, retail interest still hasn't come in yet. And we do need to see prices increase in an interesting manner for new retail to come in. So this is as to be expected.
Yeah, I've seen, I was looking, the long end of the yield curve, the 10-year yield has sort of gone up a lot into October the last couple of years. And I think that's kind of provided a headwind and that's kind of, I think, why Bitcoin slows down a bit in the summer. Could have something to do with that. But yeah, we'll see. If it's 2016, I guess that would mean that Bitcoin would pick back up in Q4. If it's 2019, it means Bitcoin picks up in 2025. So I guess it just depends on which one is, and I think the reality is, and I think everyone up here would agree that it's not 2016 or 2019 or 2020. It's 2024, right? It's not going to be exactly like any of the other prior years. It's going to be something a little bit different, right? I don't think we can expect it to play out exactly the same way. But the next question, and we'll start with Jessica on this. I know, Rob, we've talked about this before a lot, but the SEC continues to go after a lot of different companies. I saw that recently they were suing Consensus, I believe, and Silvergate. And I mean, as far as I can tell, I haven't really been following it super closely, but as far as I can tell from, sort of like loosely following it, it seems like the SEC just keeps taking losses on things. Like they keep going after companies. they keep taking the L, and they go after someone else. And I know some of these companies just settle with them and move on, but are you guys surprised by just how successful, the resilient the crypto industry has been in the face of the SEC? I mean, I think like 2 years ago, when Luna was collapsing and when FTX was about to collapse, I think a lot of people expected, the ban hammer to really come down on a lot of these companies. But I mean, here we are 2 years later, and they're still going. So, Jessica, are you surprised by how successful the crypto industry has been in the face of the SEC? And when do you think we can actually get clear guidelines so that the SEC isn't going after a new crypto company, every other week?
hmm I'm not surprised at the success of crypto companies. If we look at, for example, the Binance case was really in the spotlight this year, and Binance came out and showed the sheer army of compliance officers and legal forces that they have within the Binance entity. I think the crypto industry is really well equipped to deal with and work with regulators. It's unfortunately from the SEC's part that they're not well equipped or willing to work with the crypto companies. If I have to say one thing about the SEC in a complimentary manner, it's that they certainly are resilient also. But when it comes to the success of crypto companies, I think when they are sitting down with the courts and when they face the courts and they provide all of the evidence and information that is needed, people do understand and agree with the pro-crypto argument. And that's been really evident with the outcomes that we have seen. And the SEC's argument doesn't really make much sense with the clarity or precedent that they've been using. So there's been an interesting shift over the last year in the outcomes of these scenarios in a positive light for the crypto space. That being said, as you mentioned, Ben, the issue that we saw with consensus and the outcome with consensus and Ethereum 2.0 is the fight with consensus possibly over. So we saw that consensus actually came out and warned the broader Web3 sector that they may still be in the SEC sights. They said the closing of the Ethereum investigation, this is a really monumental win for crypto, but it's not a cure-all and one kind of case for all in the situation that we're seeing. And industry participants who have suffered under the SEC's regime will continue to suffer for some time. When it comes to kind of closing that chapter and then looking at clear guidelines moving forward, it's a really tough one to work out what will be the next step. So we have Kraken CEO David Ripley. He appeared on CNBC at some point last week, and he said that the FIT21 is a really positive move forward for crypto. This is something that's going to be optimistic. We are seeing positive developments, but he also said that the 2024 is absolutely going to be more accommodating when it comes to regulation. But that's not something that we're hearing across the board. Crypto companies are known for saying that actually the SEC is not cooperative. There's not a reciprocating conversation with the SEC on what they can and can't do. We've seen time and time again, it's very much crypto companies move forward and then they get a slap on the wrist and reprimanded when they've done something and move forward in a manner that they shouldn't have done by SEC's terms. So when it comes to clear guidelines, I think we are going to have to wait for a change in administration and or a change in SEC leadership. And both could happen regardless of the outcome of the US election. So hopefully, I would love to see a more cooperative landscape in the United States. And you guys are both kind of over there, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But it is something that's going to take quite a significant change.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like crypto is sort of growing up as an asset class and slowly maturing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of painful steps along the way to get there. Rob, what are your thoughts about this whole SEC stuff? I mean, I know a long time ago you made a comment about how they'll pick us off one by one if we don't stand together. But I think you've been right. I mean, they have been picking off people one by one. But it also feels to some degree that one by one, various companies have kind of held their own, and they've sort of stood their ground. And I think some of them have had mixed success. I know a lot of them have settled. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, Jess is right about the administration. And Ben, and also something you said in the beginning, headwinds. I'll just say it like this: it's headwinds and tailwinds. Because with Bitcoin and crypto and digital assets, it's inevitable, right? We'll get there at some point. But the question is how fast you want to get there. Do you want to get there with headwinds, which is the current administration right now, do you want to get there with tailwinds and pushing us to the goal line? And I know people will say, well, like there was this one comment that threw me. It was, well, just remember that under this current administration, which is the Biden administration, we did get a Bitcoin ETF. And to my response to that is, it was not Biden's administration that actually pulled this forward. Let's be clear, crystal clear. They're totally against it. They put out precedent after precedent about what they want to do with crypto, and that is not to actually move it forward. The real reason why it got pushed forward was BlackRock and Larry Fink. Let's never forget that. It wasn't the Biden administration coming in and going, this is the greatest thing for America. We need to really get this done. So I don't see anything moving forward quickly without a change in administration. I know some people say, well, I don't like the other person who is running for president. That's fine. I'm just telling you, and you can vote whoever you want to vote for. This isn't election advice. But if you keep on with the current administration, you're going to get the same thing. And if you move over, you're going to get something a little bit different and what he has talked about. And that could be Trump, or that could be, and I always say Trump because I know people get a little triggered, so I shouldn't say that loud. Or RFK Jr. So either of those two, I can see us moving forward. But I think in the current administration, it's going to be the same thing, the same song and dance, and we'll never get going. It'll just be headwinds versus tailwinds.
I mean, look, guys, I think that's great insight. I mean, maybe we should change the show name to NEA, non-election advice.
No, because I'm not a geopolitical expert, right? If you want geopoliticals, go to Robert Zihan. He can do all that geopolitical stuff. Just have him stay away from Bitcoin because he doesn't know what he's talking about. We'll handle the crypto and he'll handle the geopolitics. That's a good deal.
Well, I like to stay away from politics, generally speaking. But I'll let you guys do the talking on it. I saw there was a new video you guys put out over on Coin Bureau about some of your top picks. So I am curious, just in general, what are your guys's? What are your top? Jessica, we'll start with you because I think this was the video you guys did. But what are your top picks for the rest of 2024? And are you looking in certain sectors of the market specifically, and how are you going about figuring that out? You're muted.
Oh, that was a shame because I just gave away some huge alpha there, guys. Yeah. So this started quite a bit of a conversation, and Rob, thank you for sharing the video, by the way. So we were asked our top crypto picks for 2024, and I kind of broken it down into a few different narratives. The first being deepen, and deepen can kind of be taken into some specific tokens and then also some of the architecture that can help support. So Solana and Sui are two of the layer ones that I'm looking at right now that I think for supporting the deepen narrative and the trend, I think Solana is going to be a really interesting one to watch. And some of the projects that are deep in focus building on Solana in particular, which I'll get to in just a second, are really interesting. Sui as well have also launched their new handset GameFi. I think they launched it in April at Basecamp conference, and it's kind of synced in with a gaming console. It's called Playtron with Sui, and it's quite an interesting way to bring in Web 1 games with Web 2 and interacting together. And if we look at people that are looking to enter into the space, new retail coming in, Deepin is just such an easy narrative for people to understand and identify with, especially when you have physical hardware that's interacting with crypto. It just eliminates so much of the risk and the fear that comes with the cryptocurrency space. So my two main Deepin picks are World Mobile Token, which I've spoke about quite a lot on the show. I think they are miles ahead when it comes to advancements and also integrations within the crypto space. I have been interviewing Mickey since 2019, and I'm like, finally, Deepen as a narrative is taking off, and you guys can really just run forth and conquer with it, because all you have to do is go on their YouTube channel and look at some of the actual real life integrations that they've already completed and that have been executed for 2 years. And it's enough for you to go, okay, this kind of makes sense. And you just need then the cryptocurrency community support to move forward and really help accelerate it. But I think it has huge potential. There's ways that World Mobile can integrate with Starlink, and there's just a lot of growth that can be achieved with the World Mobile project. So that's one that I hold as actually my largest DeepIn portfolio position. And then also Honey, which is Hive Mapper on Solana, which is decentralized Google mapping. Essentially, you have a hardware piece of infrastructure. I think it's $500. You pop it in your car, drive around, and you are essentially gathering data for a decentralized version of Google Maps. And the marketing team have done an excellent job at rolling out this. Easy for people to get, easy for people to buy this. I think they call it a B, pop it in your car, and then you earn some points. In this economy, it makes so much sense. And I would understand why people that are terrified of crypto would be onboarded into Honey or other DeepIn plays that are more similar. So they are my two main DeepIn plays at the moment. And Honey actually is up on the day. I think it's one of the only things that's up right now because they listed on Kraken yesterday. So that's also one worth checking out. And then other plays, I also think restaking is still something that has been a trending topic for 2024. I do still think it's got room to run. So I'm keeping a close eye on Babylon, which is Bitcoin staking, and that's coming soon. We've interviewed on the Coin Bureau Club and the Coin Bureau Discord the CEO, a guy called David from Babylon, and that's something that I think would be a very interesting play. So more on that when it is coming to market. And then also I mentioned Picasso, which is restaking on Solana, again, because I'm a Solana bag holder. I think Solana support in the ecosystem is interesting. It's also got the Cosmos SDK element integration, so you can do Solana liquidity and then you can move it into the Cosmos ecosystem. So they are some of my picks. I also mentioned Toncoin, but I think we spoke about Toncoin a few times at the moment. I think, was it Rob, you covered Toncoin yesterday?
Yeah, it didn't go well.
It didn't go well?
No. So Jess, any other tokens that you have that you want to talk about?
No, that was it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Toncoin, and maybe I can chime in.
Well, I'll get to that first, but my biggest pick for 2024-25 is Polkadot. Polkadot's going to be huge because they just paid me a bunch of money to say that. No, I just didn't. So
I was going to make the joke. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about, I guess, the Polkadot treasury. There's some drama going on there or something. I don't even know.
Did you see they paid $500K to animate the Polkadot emblem in the CoinGecko website? 500,000. Like I would have done that for just a tenth of that, but whatever. So for that's Polkadot, yeah, whatever it does. But my big picks is it for me, it's as time goes on, I get less risky. I just do. And I'm still have over 70% in Bitcoin. I know people will say, well, even if it doubles, what does that mean for you? Well, it means hopefully it doubles, but who knows? But as time goes on, I just get less risky and less risk averse, and I kind of get into those things. But then to come off it, I'll do a little bit of altcoin plays. I like Solana. I think Cardano will do great. I think World Mobile Token, what Jess talked about, is one of those plays that is actually doing something and actually functions and has utility. It's actually, I'm also an Earth node operator and I own it. So everybody who thinks that I'm not biased, you're totally wrong. I'm super biased. So on World Mobile Token, I can definitely see it. And then Minutes Network, which is essentially an off spot of World Mobile, they're working together. And I talked about Ton Token, and I'll tell you why it went bad. It's because it went bad yesterday because I talk about Bitcoin 363 days out of the year. And if I pick 2 days where I talk about something different, everybody's like, oh, Rob got paid to talk about Toncoin. I wasn't. Toncoin actually does something. It has, first of all, it has 900 million or 1 billion users worldwide. And I think, correct me in the comments section, I think there's still around 8 billion people in the world, 8.5. That's a huge amount. And they're actually going to have a token. Can you imagine if Zuckerberg got his way and he was able to have a crypto token across Facebook and WhatsApp and Messenger? There's a lot more people. I think it's 2.5 billion, 3 billion people. But if he could get that, would you have bought it? I would have bought it because I'm that's going to go up in price majorly. So now we got Telegram, which may not be a big thing in America so much, but globally it is. So I think Toncoin could do very well. Also, they had an integration with Tether. I think the killer app for them is payments and transitions, and especially if Tether on Toncoin, it's less than a penny. It's super fast. It has dynamic sharding or whatever they call it. I think it's gonna do well, but that's it. But just to reiterate, 70% plus is still in Bitcoin. I still think it's gonna do well. The other stuff, hey, who knows?
Yeah. Just to add to that, I'm also, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I'm going to transition to the next thing too.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, just to add to that, I'm also, Bitcoin is still my largest holding, followed by ETH. But these are just like some fun little picks. But Rob, I have to agree with you. I think if you are looking for safe plays for the next market to reallocate and reposition, so you're not just holding Bitcoin, you have to look at what is going to bring on the next million, billion users. And I think Telegram in that regard, and Ton, really has the potential to onboard the next billion people into crypto, because they've already got the integrations ready. They've already got the gaming ecosystems. So there's a real easy conversion there. And I think it's similar with Deepin. So I have to agree.
Good. Got it. Thank you.
I've thought about three things here. First of all, when I ask you guys these questions, it makes me realize just how out of touch I am with the industry. Like,
I saw your face thing. You're like, what?
I don't even know like half the projects you're talking about. Second of all, with the whole Polkadot stuff going on, it should be a lesson, to the crypto community that you can't just, you focus on the product and the users will come, right?
Yeah.
If you actually create a good product. But if you focus more on like the marketing side, I think there has to be a right balance, right? There has to be a right balance, and I think that's an important aspect of the cryptoverse, because DOT, it's been bleeding for a while on both its Bitcoin and its ETH pairs. Now, this is pretty normal for altcoins to do at this stage of the cycle, right? We normally see that, and but it's just sort of a lesson, I think, for everyone. If you look at DOT's Satoshi value, look at it today compared to where it was 3 years ago, and that will tell you everything, right? So it's definitely been quite a drop. But again, I said before, until you get to looser monetary policy, we're not going to even really know which ones are relics and which ones are not. But then you have other projects like Solana that have done a lot better, right, over the last year and a half or so.
And sorry to interrupt, but just one thing about Polkadot, if they want to pay for marketing, that's cool. Do whatever you want with your money. I don't care what you do. But if you're going to talk about it, just make sure that you say like, hey, I get paid for this, right? On my channel, I'm like, hey, all these things are affiliate links. There's an asterisk in there that says affiliate link. Hey, this is a channel partner. They paid me, which is very rare actually. But these are just the things you should actually do, so people aren't like, doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I think there just needs to be more transparency, right? And because I think there's a lot of people, they'll get paid to talk about stuff. They don't disclose it, and then they dump on. And it's not really as much of a problem with the larger coins, but especially like the micro caps, like that's where, especially with like celebrities, like creating meme coins and then just dumping on their followers the minute they do that. Like that's where I think we've had, we've seen a lot of issues. But I hope Polkadot is successful. They've had a lot of growing pains, I think, over the last few years that they're hopefully getting worked out. But moving on, who's going to Bitcoin Nashville? Are there you guys going?
No, I'm not going. It's very far from Dubai. So I think it's probably going to be a full 24 hours of travel. So sadly, no one from Coin Bureau will be attending, although we all do love country music.
Yeah. I think I have to go. I think I have to go for some reasons for meetings, but I'll see you there, Ben, at your party. We'll play some chess, have a good time.
Yeah. I don't even know really what my expectations are specifically, but it's always great. I feel like I've met a lot of people. I just see their faces on here, and I think the reason I get somewhat excited, it's like the only time I even meet people outside of like just on the screen. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, I had a look at the agenda and I saw that there is karate combat is one of the side events during Bitcoin Nashville. So I'm curious to see if you guys will be taking part in the Bitcoin Nashville karate combat. And if so, can you guys?
I will not.
I will go, and I will tell you the only reason I will go is because I want to hang out with Gabriel Haynes. Gabriel Haynes. I don't know if you guys know that guy, but he's a very interesting gentleman, I will say, on X, and I would like to watch Chronic Combat as he goes crazy. That'd be pretty fun.
But in all seriousness, I was looking at the prices of tickets, and I'm really curious to see how the attendance is, because the speaker lineup looks great. The speaker lineup looks really kind of top notch, real OGs and also kind of veterans in each industry. The industry pass is $2,400, and the whale pass is $10,000. So I would love for you guys to report back if the expo floor is busy with people that have actually bought a ticket, or if it's just loads of speakers coming together and brainstorming ideas. Both are excellent. I'm just curious to see, based on like a kind of a retail gauge, if people are going along.
I guess inflation is hitting everywhere.
Oh my God. That's crazy amount of money. Maybe,
but it would be curious. It would be curious if you denominated ticket costs in Bitcoin. Are they more expensive this year or less expensive?
Oh, I would think they would. Inflation would just be going up anyhow. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I think we're down to our last question. If you guys have any questions for Rob or Jessica, make sure you guys post them in the chat so that we can have some to pull up once we get to this last question. Jessica, what are your thoughts here on the ETH ETF? I honestly haven't been following it at all. I know that beyond knowing that it was getting approved and hearing that it was supposed to launch in early July.
Yeah.
I have no idea when exactly, and I'm curious, is it going to be as successful as the Bitcoin ETF launch?
Okay, so SEC stalled yet again, something they love to do because, it is the SEC. So we have the returning of the S1 forms from the spot Ethereum ETF issuers. We've got a rough 8th of July deadline, and then kind of one more round of filing. So Gary Gensler has said ETA sometime in summer. James Seyfarth said on the Unchained podcast 2 days ago, he's expecting around the 15th of July them to be approved. That's not to say necessarily when it'll begin trading. And then the next thing is kind of, will it be successful? I think, first of all, it depends on market conditions. So right now we are in a fairly summer lull period where there's not much interest anyway, even for the spot Bitcoin ETFs, as we are seeing when we're looking at inflows and traded volumes. Maybe around 6 months ago on Coin Bureau Clips, I interviewed Ryan Rasmussen, who is a research analyst at Bitwise, which is one of the ETF issuers. So I sent him an email last week or the week before and just said, like, hey, what is your take on the spot Ethereum ETFs? What are you expecting when it comes to market demand? What kind of expectations do you have of volumes and inflows when you launch? And he said, let me open it here. So he was initially, Bitwise had kind of come out and said just before the approval in May that they ideally would have liked the approval for the spot Ethereum ETFs in December, because they said that people were still getting to grips with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. They were still trying to break down for institutional investors what the Bitcoin ETFs were. And they wanted a little bit more time for them to be able to synchronize with what the Ethereum ETFs could do, how they're different to Bitcoin, and the elevator pitch for Ethereum, which kind of makes sense. It's a shame in 2024 that we need the elevator pitch for Ethereum, but they're TradFi guys, so we'll give them a little bit of slack. So Ryan from Bitwise had said that Ethereum is a smaller, lesser known asset than Bitcoin. The market should manage its expectations accordingly. The reality is most financial advisors and institutional investors are still working to get up to speed with Bitcoin. For them, learning about Ethereum is the second step of their journey. So he's expecting significantly less demand for the spot Ethereum ETFs. And in May, James Seyfarth came out and said that it could be kind of 20 to 25% of the spot Bitcoin ETF appetite. And we have to remember, like, when the spot Bitcoin ETFs launched, that was 10 years since their first issuance of a possibility of a spot Bitcoin ETF. And it was years of pent up demand that just kind of exploded into the market. And I don't know if the demand is there for the spot Ethereum ETFs in the same way. So it will be maybe it'll be a shame for Ethereum if we do see the spot Ethereum ETFs go ahead and the market demand is lesser than what people are expecting. I think regardless, to see it go ahead and to see a spot Ethereum ETF on the market will still be great for crypto. It will still be a great sign that we are moving forward in the right direction, but I'm not expecting it to have the same impact. The spot Bitcoin ETFs, that was record breaking. We had Eric Balchunas and James Seyfarth both come out and say this exceeded all expectations. I don't think we'll see the same hype for Ethereum, unfortunately.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a couple of filings for Solana ETFs. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
What do you guys think the likelihood of that one getting approved this year would be?
Ooh.
I mean, I don't really think it'll be approved this year, but to be fair, I also didn't think the Ethereum was going to get Ethereum one was going to get approved this year either. So what the what the hell do I know when it comes to these spot ETFs?
So we've seen VanEck and 21 Shares filing for a spot Solana ETF. I think this year is going to be a bit of a push. If we get the likes of BlackRock come on board and say like, ooh, I really want to go forth and I'm going to put my whole weight behind it, I think the interest from institutional investors for a Solana ETF as the shiny new thing would have more appeal than an Ethereum ETF, because it correlates closer to the meme coin frenzy and it's a little bit more of a exciting, lucrative, degenerate play, that I think it would be an easier elevator pitch to sell. And if the likes of BlackRock and the other big ETF issuers see the money signs behind the potential, we could see a launch. This year, I think, is optimistic. Next year, maybe. I actually spoke to Raoul Pal a few weeks ago, and he was saying that he was speaking to some of the ETF issuers about a Dogecoin ETF, which is just a whole different beast. So who knows what could happen when it comes to what other cryptos.
We're living in an interesting timeline, Rob.
I know.
Yeah.
Dogecoin ETF.
You know what? Like, I can't say anything negative about it because I own Dogecoin, so that's good for my bags. If people want to do
say something negative, even if you own it.
Yeah, that's true. I can say that. I just don't think like.
Just fund your bags, man.
Yeah, that's what I should do. You know, Polkadot's going to be big. Yeah. So like all these things and these meme coins and all that, like at some point, when are we going to move away from all this stuff and just get to like, what is this? You know, what is real utility? What does it actually do? And can we just move forward with those types of projects like Jess was talking about with World Mobile Token and Sweet and all that stuff? I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it at this point. Like, I think everybody's kind of gotten crushed. Like, I just had a meetup yesterday, and one of my friends, Steven, who's a big meme coin guy, and he made a lot of money. He did a lot of round trips too, and he's like, you know what? That's it. And I'm like, if this guy is out of the meme coins, I think everybody should get out of the meme coins.
Look, man, you're preaching to the choir over here. You know, I mean, and you know, I see a lot of people asking in the chat. I've still at least seen a couple people say, do we think Solana will? Let me see if I can find the question. It looked like some people were talking about Solana. Yeah, here's one. Thoughts on Sol overtaking ETH in the future due to its speed and ease of use. So they're basically saying, do you think Solana will ever flip Ethereum? I don't personally think. I mean, look, guys, it's impossible to predict things like 10 years from now, right? I mean, like tons of stuff can happen between then. I don't think Solana is going to be flipping Ethereum this year or next year. I don't really think it'll ever flip it, but ever's a long time. You know, like I'm not going to be here 20 years still defending that point of view. But I would say my expectation is that it likely won't, but that is just my view.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would, you know what, like all these different projects that we talk about, like everybody thinks like, you know, because the tech is so good and it's so fast and it's so cheap, it'll overtake this part. Sometimes it's just not the case. I mean, look at any small business that you've ever heard about and actually have visited. It's not just one aspect to it. I mean, it could be service is great. The funding is fantastic. Everything is good behind the scenes, and they make a couple of mistakes, then it just goes away. And you can see that with even things in crypto. You can see that with Luna. You can see that with Voyager. You can see that with, I mean, just pick a project, and that's just how it is.
Here's an interesting question. worst case scenario for Bitcoin in case of
Ooh.
a recession, cycle top already in. You know, this is something that, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just assume that we'll keep going either later this year or worst case scenario 2025. I think that's kind of going to be the base case for most people, right? Because that's what we've normally done, right? We normally see Bitcoin peak in Q4 of the post-halving year. There are, and normally after the Bitcoin halving, everyone expects like an immediate run up, but normally nothing happens for like 6 months, right? Like it just, the market gets boring because there's all this hype going into the halving. And then like kind of like there's like nothing for the next like 6 months, and then we pick back up later on. But I mean, you know, I think as an investor, right, as investors, we should always consider all possible outcomes, right? That way at least you can hedge for that outcome. Like what are the like what probability would you put on something like this where it's, you know,
Jeff,
where
you want to take it? I'll take it. I'll say, like, as far as like probability, the probability of a recession, I mean, it's going to happen at some point. We cannot go up and to the right forever. But the question you have to ask is not the probabilities, because it will happen. The question you have to ask yourself is, what do you do when it does happen? And that is why if and when we get into the recession, what's going to take the biggest hits? Is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be Ethereum? Or is it going to be tomato coin or whatever else it is? Altcoins are going to get obliterated. No one's going to want to risk it. We're in a recession. Everybody loses their minds. The logical thing is to say, oh, you just buy the dip because that's what happens. But trust me, everybody who's here has been here for a while. You know how irrational the market actually is. And the second thing you have to really think about is this: if there is a recession, well, how long is this going to last? And we've talked about this a lot of times on the channel. A recession historically in the United States lasts an average of 10 months. But out of those 10 months, it's not just the recession itself. The market recovers first, and then the economy recovers second. So that actually goes on to 7 months. So if you can hang on for 7 months for a recession, it's going to be massively a decrease in valuation. But if you can hang on for those 7 months and then kind of come out 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, you'll be doing pretty good. So you have to think to yourself at all times, what could actually happen? That's the most negative thing. As far as probabilities, it's going to happen. I just don't know what's going to happen in 2026, or it's going to happen in 2025, or tomorrow. No idea.
Well, the thing too, though, is there's two questions in this question, and they're not. It's not okay. Think about last cycle.
Yeah,
we had Bitcoin rallied over 300% in 2019. It then put in lower highs. It was a high in June, a lower high in July, a lower high in August, and then a bigger drop in September. That was what happened in 2019. It then trended down till December, and then we had the recession crash a little bit later, but that whole thing lasted 9 months, which is kind of on par with what Rob was talking about, like about 10 months, 7 to 10 months or so. It was about 9 months. But even though there was technically a recession in 2020, we still, the top wasn't in for the cycle, right? I mean, we still went on to put in new all-time highs. It just didn't happen until, you know, later on in the halving year, and then, you know, in the post-halving year. So I guess there's it's a two-part question, right? It's like, I mean, yes, I think everyone agrees that eventually there will be a recession. It's just a natural part of the business cycle. But then the other part of the question is like, you know, what probability do you put on the top actually just being in already? Remember, one thing to consider after because we sort of equated before, I guess I have the merge, the ETH merge, and the Bitcoin halving. ETH USD topped out, local top, 1 month before the merge, and then it trended down for what, like 4 or 5 months before picking back up again. So far, we've saw Bitcoin top out 1 month before the halving, right? And so it was top in March, a lower high in April, a lower high in May, a lower high in June. That's why I make the 2019 comparison, right? It's just but again, it doesn't have to play out. I think if it's going to continue to play out, we need to see rate cuts soon. Because if we don't see rate cuts soon, then it's going to be something completely different, I think. But yeah, I mean, it is a two-part question. Jessica, do you have any strong opinions on this?
Yeah, so I'd have to agree. I don't think we're at a cycle top at all. I think agreeing with the point of rate cuts coming soon, we've got the US election. Typically, you do see some market volatility around that time, normally more likely to the positive upside. And then also, we have seen the spot Bitcoin ETFs launch this year, which has been new flows of a institutional investment wrapper for BTC. So there's still a lot of positive room to run. And then to echo Rob's point on maybe not talking about a possibility of a recession, but after the recession, the money flowing back on into the world. We have a video coming out on the main channel of Coin Bureau later today called the Cantillon Effect. And it's talking about when the money does flow back in to the markets, what kind of things are the first to have the money trickle down and how you can optimize it. So that's also worth a mention and a watch if you're looking to put your mind at ease and position yourself accordingly.
I'd like to see that. That one sounds pretty good. I will say,
I'll
though,
send you the link.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And me and the other 100,000 people will watch it. But I will say, like, it is what Ben, you just said about the cycle top. What if it is? What if that was it? Like, what would be let me ask you guys, let me turn around real quick. What would you guys' plan be then? If the cycle top already happened, would you be okay with waiting another 4 to 6 years to get to somewhere? Or would you be like, oh, I'm just not going to do this anymore?
Next year will be my 10th year in crypto. I'm not going anywhere.
That's true.
I mean, my strategy doesn't change at all. I mean, for me, it's just, I mean, I haven't gotten into, I've just stuck with Bitcoin and anything else is just in like T-bills and CDs and low expense ratio index funds, a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver. I feel like I'm somewhat diversified in that sense. So, I mean, if the top, see, here's what I think. I mean, look, if you think about last cycle when the rate cuts actually arrived, right? They arrived in actually it was right now. It was in July of the pre-halving year. So I almost wonder if we're just shifted, like the timing of rate cuts is just shifted like 1 year later this cycle. So we see the similar thing play out as we saw last cycle. It's just that it's playing out at a different time in the cycle. I wonder if that's what's happening. But again, I could be wrong. I've shied away from from a lot of the altcoins in favor of Bitcoin, just thinking most everything else would bleed to it. But I guess if the top, I think there's a decent chance the top could be in for this year. I wouldn't be, if December came and we hadn't taken out 73K, I don't think it'd be that surprising. Or at the very least, Q4 is could be when we finally start to go back up,
Yeah.
Because again, if you look at the last 2 years, we saw the 10-year treasury surge, and the surge started in the July-August timeframe. And while it surged, higher while the long end of the yield curve went up, that was when Bitcoin didn't really go anywhere. If you think about in 2023, Bitcoin didn't really do anything until October. In 2022, Bitcoin was also stuck in traffic on Struggle Street in that Q3 timeframe. So I think you could see a scenario where it's just a boring summer, and best case scenario, we pick back up in Q4. More moderate case would be a 2019 comparison where you pick back up in 2025. But I mean, look, if you're a long-term investor, who cares?
Yeah. How long, Jessica? You've been in it for 10 years, right? A decade.
Next year will be my 10th year talking about Bitcoin.
Ben, how about you? How long have you been investing?
Well, I mean, I don't remember exactly. I mean, I first learned about Bitcoin over a decade ago. I know that, but I wasn't investing in it because I didn't have any money to put in it. I was a student.
Yeah, you were a student. You were getting your PhD. You can't.
Yeah, it's been at least it's been a few cycles. I don't remember exactly when, but it's been a few cycles.
So just talking about this, like, it's a funny thing because I've been in for 8 years, and just talking about it, I felt a little bit of anxiety. It was weird. Like, it came up. Like, I'm like, this might be the top. It actually came up, and I remember, like, at the meetup yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine, Diego. He came in the last cycle in 2021, and he got decimated by the things that were going on with the market. And we were sitting there and we were all talking, And he says, this one, I don't really care if things go up or things go down or things go sideways. He goes, I'm going to be here for the long haul and not a big deal. And I met him in 2021 when he was like that exuberant investor. Like everything's going to go to the moon. It's going to be awesome, everything else. But it was just a group of us. And we were all just like calm and chill. And this is kind of like how I see it right now. Like everybody's, the ones that have been here for a long time, like Jessica, like Ben, the people in the comment section, are like, what if it is? Well, I'll still be here tomorrow. I'll still be here next month. I'll still be here in years to come. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's more. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you are new to investing, I have to say, Ben, the into the cryptoverse, DCAing out of crypto and out of your asset allocations is such a good tool, because if you are watching the prices, it's so easy for you to forget your exit points. And I think to DCA out, if you are a new investor, just removing the emotion from it. So if anyone is watching, go check that out on the Into the Cryptoverse. I thought it was very useful.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, so far, I think we only went into the 0.7 to 0.8 wristband around 73K. We haven't gone to like the 0.8 to 1 wristband. So that would be the best news, I guess, for the people that don't want the top to be in, is that normally at some point in the cycle, we make it to like 0.8 to 1 risk. But again, if it's going to play out like prior cycles, that might not happen until the end of 2025, that's still a year and a half from now, potentially. So who really knows, right? Who really knows? But I do think Rob's right. I think that a lot of people are, and Jessica as well, I think that it's kind of like, well, if it is, so be it. I don't think any of us would be here right now, or we wouldn't have 2,500 people watching this channel if they didn't really believe in the long-term success of Bitcoin, right? Whether you're the thing about bears is that they're bulls in waiting, right?
That's a good one.
But it's, you're not going to have 2,500 people tuning in because they just are praying for Bitcoin to go down over the long haul, right? If they are wanting to go down, they only want it to go down temporarily so they can buy in, and then they want to see it go up. So I do think that long term it's going to be a success for sure. My only concern is just if the Fed's going to break something between but the thing is if the Fed breaks something, they just turn the money printers back on,
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's hard to lose.
That's the thing. Like, as long as you stick with the blue chips and you stay around long enough, it's hard to lose. It's easy to lose if you just go from one meme coin to another, chasing the latest pump. That's how you lose. If you just keep chasing the latest meme coin pump, you lose. If you do what both Rob and Jessica said, where they said, look, could go down, but still, guess what? Majority of my portfolio is in Bitcoin over these other altcoins. They recognize there's risk in the altcoin market. And if one doesn't make it, so what? They still have majority of allocation into Bitcoin, which they obviously would believe in long term. So just some important, I think, great lessons for the cryptoverse. Let's see. Someone says money flows from the patient to the impatient. That's a famous quote in the markets.
That's very true, but that's what makes the markets flow. The impatient people, they just start selling, and the people who've been here for a long time are like, well, thank you very much. Like I always say, like at some point I'm going to dump my bags, right? But if you want to dump on me, you've been doing it for 2.5 years. That's fine. I'll pick it all up, because at some point I won't be the dumpy. I'll be the dumper. That's just how it is. You get Bitcoin at the price you deserve.
Yeah.
Someone says, what is the sorry, I'm trying to click on these different questions, but they're not coming up. Oh, someone says, what's the current risk level for Bitcoin? Do you guys Rob, do you have that up? No.
I do, as a matter of fact.
Well, I don't even know what it is. It's not, I think it's got to be in the low to mid 0.5s, right?
Let's take a look at this website. I don't know if you've seen this.
I don't even know.
So right now we're at 0.533, which right in the middle.
Okay.
And then Ethereum is 0.6. And if you want all the other ones, sign up for Into the Cryptoverse.
Yeah, the reason, I mean, Ethereum risk is higher, but I also actually I saw a question earlier. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to ask you guys anyways. What's your view on ETH Bitcoin?
question. That's Jessica's question.
Rob, I'm going to you on this one.
As far as like the ETH Bitcoin evaluations?
Yeah, because look, we have the ETH ETF coming up soon, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go first since I'm putting the pressure on.
All right, thank you.
I'm stubborn. I'm gonna stick to my guns and say that Bitcoin dominance is going higher. But I will say, you know, for this dominance train that we've been on, I think the dominance train is coming to an end in either September or December. That's my guess. Yeah. I think the dominance I think the dominance rally, my base case right now is that the dominance rally is over sometime between September to December, and that in 2025 Bitcoin dominance finally falls. That is what I think.
Falls below 50%
in 2025.
You heard it here first, folks.
Not in 2024. I think in 2024 it's going to continue a very painful and slow grind higher and higher and higher. But I do think here, let me show you guys something. Actually, Rob, let me see if I can pull it up. Rob, can you pull this up? Can you look at let me just see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, go ahead. What you got? What do you want? I'll tell you how to navigate your website.
I just set up here. No, it's on TradingView.
Oh, I don't have that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, give me 2 seconds.
This is a good one from Sticky Fingers. I'm slapping myself for not living off ramen noodles and buying when Bitcoin was 7K. You know what's funny? Like at some point, we're all going to be talking about like when Bitcoin was below 100K. It's inevitable. But I don't know how long.
I remember I was working in Switzerland as a reporter for a Forex bank, and we were talking about Bitcoin. It was $500. And I was like, that's just too expensive to get in. And I remember it, and I will never forget it. And I remember where I was standing in the studio. I was like, this is just a little bit too pricey to get in right now, guys. And you get Bitcoin the price you deserve.
All right. Look at this chart. This is all Bitcoin pairs. Okay? It's a pretty obvious pattern. Green, red, 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 green, red, red, red. These are 12-month candles. So we're currently in the third 12-month alt Bitcoin pair red candle, right? That's why Bitcoin dominance has been going up, because altcoins keep bleeding back to Bitcoin, right? It was 3 years in a row this was 2018, 2019, and 2020. This was last cycle. Altcoins bled back to Bitcoin. And then this cycle, it's just 2022, 2023, and 2024. So that's why I think we'll see Bitcoin dominance potentially top out. I think it'll be this year. If it's not this year, it could be like January of next year. But I do think the dominance rally is going to be coming to an end in the next, within the next 6 to 9 months. I think the dominance rally is going to be over.
I can see it. What do you got, Jessica?
I've got some interesting hopes. I think for as you mentioned, the Ethereum ETF, I think is going to be a really interesting indicator on ETH BTC. We can't forget there was a 21% God candle from Ethereum when we saw that the approval came through, which was just huge. I don't think anyone expected such a positive upside reaction in the market. So I think that'll be a really good gauge on where we'll be at with ETH BTC, is to keep a close eye on the ETH ETF approvals and how that moves the market.
Also, what was the low for Bitcoin back in May? It was like 56K? You guys know?
Let's take a look. In May itself?
Let's see. 56.5K. And we just went to 56. Okay. So we haven't actually taken out the May 2024 low. Like, do you guys remember when Bitcoin sold off at the very end of April, early May of this year, and then it bounced? So we still haven't gone below that price yet. So I mean, if the bulls are going to try to hold the line, this is where they're going to try to do it, because this is the let me just share my screen.
Level of support. Well, I keep hearing level of support was 60K, and that one got obliterated this morning. So
I heard so many people tell me that 60K was the floor after the havoc, and I'm like, well, I mean.
This is your last chance, guys. Your last chance to get it before 60K until the next time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think everyone is. Oh, okay. I was presenting my screen. Okay. Let me see if I can share this. Yeah. So like this is the level that we hit back in So we're essentially at the same level that we hit back in May.
So Ben, you're saying this is the support level, 56.5.
I guess what I'm saying is if it's gonna bounce, this is where around here is where it's gonna happen. If it doesn't happen here, then I guess you're going back down to 50K or something, right?
Yeah, that would. I have my orders set. Let's hope it does.
Because the you basically have the I don't know why I have 86 there. Yeah, you have the 20-week SMA and the 8-week SMA back up here at like 65K. So I mean, any bounce that's going to be resistance, I would assume. It's all just dubious speculation. No one knows what we're doing here.
Hey, when's the next Bitcoin dominance video? I'm kind of upset. Haven't seen one in a while.
Man. That's the secret. They're all Bitcoin dominance videos. I just changed the title.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Point taken.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that that's probably the biggest thing Bitcoin has going for it right now is that there's still all this liquidity in the altcoin market that can go back to Bitcoin.
Dude, there's a lot of liquidity in those meme coins, and it's got to go somewhere. And hopefully, people are smart enough to take some profits now before it goes to nothing. Not all of them, but most.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up, guys. It's 10 o'clock on the East Coast. We'll see if 56.5K holds. If not, I guess you're going to go back down to the low 50s or so. But we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. By the way, we have some we have the jobs report coming out tomorrow. So maybe the markets there'll be a reaction tomorrow morning after we get the unemployment rate and all that stuff comes out. But we will go ahead and wrap it up, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Rob and Jessica. Links in the description below. Next week we're going to be on Rob's channel, right?
Yeah, new green screen next week.
New green screen next week. And yeah, we'll take it from there. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.